I did a breakdown of like whenever it comes in, it's primarily the way the property structure is and what to look for, and meters, like all the different meters that are involved in making a decision, people overlook. And then ultimately, like what a perfect buy box would be in the current market that I think is. The properties to avoid and to keep. And it's pretty simple. Sometimes when we go to the void, I wanted to give you guys visuals to like really understand what you're avoiding when you're walking a basement all the way to a ceiling and anything in between. If it's a gutted property, if it's got specific mechanical issues, or even gas meters, electric meters, and all those type of issues that most investors, they may be okay with, but for me, the way I look at all the previous deals that we've done and properties I flipped, they're ones that I want to stay away from. The only way I wouldn't stay away from them is if it's an absolutely amazing price point and it justifies the time it would take to get, say, a gas meter set up or a electric meter. Donald, for example, has a deal that we did, which was 832 for planning. We still have a problem with the gas meter, and it is almost a year now. And that it's just a testament of showing you how long it takes to get certain things done, especially in the climate with like post-COVID. And it's really a matter of them being backed up, the plumbing inspector taking care of it. So we'll dive through just basically some of the basics to avoid and then keep. So first thing is major foundation issues. And a lot of people don't know the difference of like the cracks and how they all work. So the main thing is if the foundation walls are bowing, and bowing, if it's bowing inside or outside, those are a good indication of there's a major structural problem. If you picture it bending a foundation where it bows, there has to be the weight above it, which is causing it to bow. And those are things that you just totally want to stay away from. These are different foundation issues that occur, which you can still buy the property. And first one would be a horizontal crack. So if there's a horizontal crack, it's typically because of frost line issue. So if there's a crack, it could be, if it's under a certain temperature, especially in the Northeast, there could be a crack that happens. Depending on the size of the crack, it's still a buy. And this foundation issue could be, if it's this crack, it could be a problem. If you see little, say, settlement cracks, not a big deal. Vertical cracks, if it's completely from the top of the foundation down, major problem. You can still buy it, but we won't buy it. So these are 4 examples of investors would buy these because the foundations are not bowing, but they're cracks that just don't make sense for what we buy, our criteria. Step cracks are exactly what they look like. They're cracks that you'll see in between the different mortar, and it runs just like a step. Not a big deal, but we don't want to buy it because it's too much of a pain in the ass on the home inspection side when you actually flip the property. Shear cracks are just, they're straight across, they're similar horizontal cracks. They're just extremely low under the frost line, and I probably would pick that the last that I would want to deal with, but there's investors that buy this type of this.
Another thing for bowing, thing about a bow and arrow. That's why I learned before.
You learned it, yeah.
Like it looks like you're pulling a bow and arrow, how like the wall looks. So the wall looks like that. I learned that.
Bowing in is the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did they tell you that too?
Yeah, that's the worst.
Bowing inward is rare because it's probably going against the earth, but there has to be something that I would say a framing issue that caused it. Because remember, it's sitting on heavy. There's weight that's causing it. So you really would have to bring a structural engineer in to figure it all out. So the house with heavy sloping on flooring, I have bought homes like this where they slope, where you could drop a marble and it can roll all the way through. This comes into play where if you're in the basement of the home, you have to really see, is it the floor joists that are causing it? If it's a floor joist that's completely bowing, then there's a couple different remedies. You can sister it together. You can completely change it and repair it, but I would always suggest getting in the basement and seeing the extent of the bowing. If it's extremely bad like this, and then you see cracks in the wall on the first floor, second floor, it could be from just settlement cracks. If it's plastic, if drywall is cracked, then I would be very concerned and completely stay away from it and have a professional buyer come in and tell you their opinion of what they would purchase it for. But anything with heavy sloping and you can't figure out, all right, it's not the floor joist above the basement, then it's a deal that I would totally stay away from. Not a minor fix. Utility shutoffs are longer than a year. With utility shutoffs, this is a simple phone call to the township and asking them how long has this property been vacant. If it's been over a year, you can rest assured that all the utilities have been shut off for over a year. If you're dealing with a foreclosure, typically they're not shut off for a year, so you're okay. But if it's a bank owned sitting there for several years, you're going to be dealing with several problems, which is the sewer line could be corroded with calcium, and you're probably going to have to change it 9 times out of 10. If it's a property from a distressed seller who said he has not touched it or done any work to it, mark my words, there's a utility problem and then a sewer line problem. An example that we recently dealt with was 7 First Ave in West Deptford. The seller tried to start the renovation, let it sit dormant probably for several years and just didn't do anything. And it took a long time to I'd say about 6 months to get a meter installed, get an electric meter installed, and there's a lot of paperwork and minutia involved. However, it made sense to us. We got the property for $18,000. Remember, it comes into play with the purchase price. You don't get it extremely low, we send it off to another person because we don't want to deal with the headaches of all the utilities, all these like one-off issues that you got to deal with. Another one is burnout, fire damage. Any homes that have massive fire damage like this, completely stay away from. We'll simply assign it to someone else and not put a lot of effort in. A lot of these things are really to be selfish of keeping these deals. These deals we still put under contract, but we don't want to keep them because they take too much time and energy and effort, and it's not worth it. But burnout houses, people will buy them, but if it's a small little fire in a room, we'll look at it. But if it's a massive job, we'll pass. House overtaken by mold. And this is an ugly one. I recently walked one with a realtor, even last week, where tenant actually was living in it, and it wasn't this bad, but it was bad. And you have to, if the township finds out, you have to basically get a bunch of a company that comes in with hazmat suits and be EPA certified to remove all this and bag it, come back, test it. It's a huge undertaking, especially if the city knows about the mold. Walk away from the mold deals. And if it's a small mold deal, typically mold comes from if there's water in the basement, if it's close to a lake, if it's close to an ocean. If you're not constantly cleaning the property, maintaining it, mold will happen. You'll see sellers that have mold, which are second homes down the shore, by a lake. They have a tenant that's not taking care of it. They're not taking care of it. Those are the homes that really will attract mold. House already gutted to the studs. I've purchased homes like this, and it looks pretty. It looks very easy to do because everything's open frame. However, in the current climate and the price is changing like by the day on the ARVs, I would not buy a gutted home. I would wholesale it. And there's a lot of people that love it, but when you look at the margins, for us, it doesn't make sense. It's fun to do. It looks pretty. It comes out amazing when you go from studs to a finished product. But it's the length of time to get it done is extremely long, so it doesn't really make sense unless you get it super cheap. Adding additions. When I say adding additions, it's if we have to add an addition to bump an ARV. If we have to build a second floor addition, if we have to add square footage to a home to justify the ARV and the numbers still make sense, it won't work only because of the time part of the addition. So adding additions where, say a seller explains to you that unless they already added the addition, it's permitted, it's pretty much done, and you just want to clean it up and finish it off, it all comes down to the right purchase price, and it has to be, heavily looked at, the purchase price. But adding additions, we will not think about doing or do anything. $1 million mansions is another one. Anything I've seen mansions that I've looked at in Voorhees where the price may make sense. You can get it for like $500,000, put 300,000 into it, and then sell it for like 1.3, 1.4 million. However, if you tack in like all the interest rates or all the rates from borrowing money from a lender and trying to do it, it doesn't make sense for us to keep it, but it does make sense to wholesale it. And people would totally be on board with buying $1 million mansions. So this doesn't come along a lot because we don't run campaigns catered to this, but if it did, we would try to wholesale it. All right, so creating a perfect property avatar. And so the best properties, usually, in my opinion, if I grade them in levels 1 through 5, and I have it in the next slide, are really quick money flipping, like starter homes. And when you say starter homes, it is a VA buyer or FHA buyer, a first-time home buyer. And a VA buyer or FHA home buyer avatar is, they are stepping up from being a tenant to being a first-time home buyer. So this is a big deal for first-time home buyers by going from tenant mindset to a homeowner mindset. So they're not looking for every single bell and whistle in the book because they're going from being a tenant to owning. And those renovations don't have to be spectacular, especially in the market of an FHA home buyer or a VA buyer. I mean, everybody is grateful from being a tenant to a buyer. So the mindset shift is, if you focus on that market, which we do the entry market, their expectations are not high, so you don't have to overdo it or wow them to a crazy degree. Maybe a step up, which is their second home, you do. But first time home buyer, totally renovations could be nice and clean. Retail fix and flips are the easy ones, which means FHA, VA buyers, you buy a property in the level 1 category, perfect people to do it with. Wholesale any properties that don't fit your avatar, this is our appetite, so this is really what we're looking on. Any home that's 1950 and newer, rancher homes are ideal. The reason why 1950 and older plus ranchers are only 1 floor, extremely easy. So you and your buddy are running a campaign, Christian, and you get ranchers, and they're 1950 and over, send it to me $1. I'll buy that all by that because they're amazing ranchers. They're so easy to renovate and get through. Small homes and light rehabs are the best. Those are absolutely, like, anything like, in my opinion, 1,200 square feet and under, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 10 to 15 grand rehab, in and out. They're the best. They're absolutely the best homes to buy. But this is a very slim buy box. All right, so we do a level 1 through a 5. Okay, so level 1, you'll see these little dogs here, and then the dogs with the spooky thing. We want to buy the happy dogs. Okay, so the happy dogs are level 1, paint and carpet job. This is an example of a property we did paint and carpet with. Perfect job. Actually, we didn't do carpet. It was just paint. Literally, the only thing was paint. Level 3 needs upgrades and updating, and 2 or more major repairs. When I say 2 or more, it's a level 3 would be you have to update, say, a kitchen, bathroom, and there's probably an electric issue and a roof issue, or say it's a roof issue and a plumbing matter, or HVAC and windows. There's typically 2 major repairs, including the renovations that need to be done in a kitchen and the bathroom. Does that make sense? Like level 3, that's how we grade it. Yeah. Level 5 is this property in Chester. It's just a nightmare. There's a board on the front. Typically, the inside doesn't look very well, and it needs everything done under the sun. So 1 through 5 are the best. 3s are the best when you have an end buyer already lined up, I'd say. Don and I just got this property at Ventnor. It's a level 3, in my opinion, but we already have an end buyer, so it's okay. But it does need 2 or more major repairs. But this is really the box we want to stay in. 1, 2, 3. Donald has seen the level 4s and 5 renovations, and he knows that they take a long time. Retail fix and flips. Retail fix and flips are selling to an end buyer. A buyer who will live in the house. Once you sell, you're out of it. You're completely done. And we really want to focus on starter homes and focus on second home buyers. Second home buyers are people that are upgrading from being a starter home to a second home. So they've already lived their life as a first-time home buyer, and they want to just basically trade up. They want to go from starter to a second home with better upgrades. Those are the two different markets that we pretty much have always pounded and focused on. But we never really like verbalized it like this. But this is really the market we focus on all the time. Retail fix and flips, starters and second homes. So the main thing you have to meet is the FHA guidelines and the criteria. And it's little knick-knack stuff, which is outside of a CO inspection or a home inspection report. And to keep it simple, if you're selling a property to say a retail starter home, there's 3 major inspections at the end that have to get done. Some of them overlap and some of them don't. CO inspections and home inspections mirror each other. They're pretty similar because the home inspector kind of covers the same safety problems and stuff that a CO inspector does. However, an FHA home inspector, there's no rhyme or reason to me of the stupid stuff they pick out. Their punch list of things are just like kind of stupid. So if you're going toward the market, you have to build this in your scope of work on the front end of telling contractors that are not used to it. So like chip paint, whether it's around windowsills, like wooden windowsills, or around the base of a house. If the chimney is slightly painted and not painted completely, they will actually want you to paint it. A garage that is detached, if it's not painted, I've had my dad actually paint a garage for me because they want the garage painted the day before closing. So like they'll ask for stupid requests, so you will see bizarre things. No cracked glass, which kind of could mirror a CO inspection, but anything that like from the front door has the little glass and it's chipped, they won't want cracked glass, so that's something that would have to be done. It must have a stove. This is one thing that we don't have a problem with, but say you try to sell a home with no appliances, I've ran into this. They request that you have to have a stove from FHA guidelines. You don't need any other appliance but stove. No wood to the ground contact, which is like the foundation cannot be wood. So if it is, it needs to be capped or sealed. So that's like one little thing that I didn't know until we did it. It must be clean and livable, this is obvious, and it must appraise. This is a big one because when you look at the VA FHA market, when you sell it to those types of clientele, you have to be cognizant of if the market's it's not a problem now, but if the market was appreciating 20% and you have an FHA home buyer, which is typically, they don't have a lot of cash in their pocket to put additional money down. So if you agree to a sale price of 190, however, the appraiser's comping it at 160, and you're at the finish line, you got it at 160 appraised, however, your sale price is 190. If the FHA buyer doesn't come to the table with the additional $30,000, the max amount you can accept is 165, because from the appraisal for an FHA home buyer, the max they're willing to pay is $5,000 on top, because this is a government loan, and the government will not cover the $30,000 gap in the appraised value versus sale price. So this is something that is worth knowing if you're flipping a house to a first-time home buyer, and you can get burned pretty bad, especially in a good market. It sucks if you can get burned in a lower tier good market. And the final thing is don't get fancy. So if you don't get fancy, you don't have to worry about the appraisal biting in your butt. If you keep it simple, it'll appraise and it'll appraise accordingly, and you don't have to worry about any crazy like adjustments that are made. Wholetailing, so you close on the property and you clean out. Pretty much it's a 1 week job. You're going in, you're painting it, you're maybe putting carpet in, quickly paint it, make it smell better, budget between $2 to $4 grand, and you're out of it in 1 week. A subtail. So this is something that we've done. This is another creative way where you're doing a subject to flip. So you're gonna, but it's a wholesale. It's kind of like a wholetail. So it's a clean job. You're taking it over subject to the mortgage. You're renovating it, and then you're putting it on the market. The key reason why a subtail is effective is you're able to transfer the deed, which doesn't cause a complication with, say, a novation agreement, where novation agreements would be a problem. But you transfer the deed, and then you have possession of the home. and then you can flip it on the back end and it saves you money on transfer tax, all the extra costs that go into like lending, where you don't have to pay, say 14% on your money. So doing Subtails is really like super effective if you have the right deal and it works. But yeah, this is really the buying strategy that I wanted to go through of like how we're gonna, just summarize everything. And this is like the main slide I think is super effective of knowing our buy box is totally the level 1s to 3s. And these somehow seem to be manufactured through mailers. I don't know why, but mailers typically give you this. Texting and calling give you this.
Mm-hmm.
But I like these from a buyer standpoint, what we get. Even commercials. The commercials we've done, we get 1 through 3s, which are great deals. But it's interesting when you look at the KPIs of the marketing of what levels you get and the motivation behind the sellers on these things. So, but yeah, this is our buy box 1 through 5, and then these are the retail fix and flips. And this is just good general knowledge to know when you're selling to a starter or flipper. And these are all the different things to avoid. Yeah. Ladies, virtually, you've any questions or thoughts about this?
I have no questions.
Okay.
But it's a good to know. So thank you so much for sharing this, man. Thank you for
No
putting
question.
this together.
So what are you confused about? That's my question to you. There has to be something.
If there's one thing, maybe the level 3 with the happy dog. It says 2 or more major repairs. Up to how many repairs are we going to consider before it goes to level 4 or level 5?
That's a good question. So what I would answer is, the way I would look at it is that, of course, anything in level 1, like would be paint, carpet, and then if they were to do kitchen and bathroom, I'll jump it to level 2. I would say if you were to add that, and to add level 3, to go more to level 4, it would be, let's say they needed to do a hot water heater, electric or plumbing, because they're about the same price, electric and plumbing, a roof, and then siding. That would be level 4.
Yeah.
And then to get it to level 5 would be like all that plus drywall, windows, and everything else beyond that.
So is it safe to say that we should consider the amount of, or the estimate repair, the dollar amount that we are supposed to spend so that we can put it to level 3 or 4?
Yeah, I think it falls into our cost of repairs. Remember the cost of repair sheet that we do, light, medium, and heavy?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty synonymous with this.
So let's say, look, I'm looking at it now. I don't know if you have the, so most houses are around 1,500 square feet, right? Most houses are 1,500 square feet. The average, so the light renovation is about 18,750. It's almost 20,000. The average is a bigger jump. It's about almost 20K. So the average, which is the second level of renovations for a 1,500 square foot house, is 37,500. And then between 37,500 to heavy is 75,000. So it's a really big jump. So right now, looking at this is just level 1, 2, and 3. To get it to a 4 would be about around 56,000. 56 to 62,000, I would say exactly, would be a level 4. If you were looking at a 1,500 square foot house on the renovation thing on there.
Yeah.
Would that answer your question? If not,
It did. Thank you.
Yeah. So like when I look at renovation, only because I've walked through so many properties, if I do exactly with the happy dogs. If I know, like, all right, it looks like this house needs a little extra, and I always put a level 4. I always put, like, let's say the average is 37,000. Let's round it up to 38,000 is the average, and the heavy 75. I would put it literally in the middle, like, all right, this property needs $56,000 worth of work.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how I do it.
Yeah.
That answers.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions?
I do not have one.
Where Donald went to, like, say there's a level 2 and a level 4. We don't have the pricing there because we kept it in 3 tiers. But
Mhm.
when we say like between an average and a heavy, that's a level 4. And if it's between a light and an average, it's a level 2. We don't put it here in writing because this is more just quick math type stuff for us to make a quick decision on the phone. But when you're diving into like the micro of all of it, then we do a deeper dive into, all right, this is exactly the cost of the windows and these are all the extras. So, but no, it's a good question because there's a line that is always towed. If it's all right, is this exact level 3? It could be level 2 or it could be level 4, depending on which side of the pendulum it swings on the renovation repairs.
Mhm.
And it's really experience and just hearing us constantly talk about it, and then it just
Right.
naturally you just say, oh, level 2. It's like in your brain you just know, oh, this is a keeper. When there's like this little like man inside of your stomach that starts jumping up and down, excitement when you walk out, you know that's a level 1, 2, or 3. You know it's a good deal.
Okay.
You could also think like if it's like a level 1, it's like, would I live in this property without changing anything? That's how I would see it. Like, all right, this property looks like it's this decent condition. I would probably live in it. Maybe even need paint and carpet, and that's probably it. Everything else looks fine. But like if it's something that's like, ooh, I don't know if I would move in right away, then obviously you know, like
It's at least a work.
it's a work.
Okay.
That's it, right?
Yeah, that's it. Cool.
And then as far as like rental conditions, like if we want to like just keep it, because that's like we don't need to fix up every single thing, right? Except,
Yeah, I would tweak it. It's almost a different thought process because you can get away with being a little cheaper on the rental side versus like flipping it. So yeah, you could almost change the level depending on the amount of like things that are needed. Yeah. Like if we're doing like we would go super light on a rental and then maybe light on a flip. If that makes sense. It's almost like a subcategory in the same stratosphere. Because no matter what, you have to take care of the renovations, but what's the level of how much you're going to put into it is what matters. Like if you have extra paint and you're like, if the paint looks good, then for a rental, maybe you just paint some accent walls and then it looks better than repainting the entire house to save money. Or, changing out hardware. Rental, you don't have to change out the hardware, but in the flip, I would change out the hardware. But in the rental, if you don't have extras, I would just like leave it.
Would you say for a dollar amount? So like if you were to do a rental per se,
Yeah.
would you say a good dollar amount would be like 10 to 15K less, or maybe is that too much? Oh,
You might be right now because of inflation and shit.
That's something.
I used to say 5 to 8 million.
Would you say 10 maybe?
Yeah, probably 10 to 14, 15 million. Because there's just like more, things are just a little more like carpet, a little more, that's up. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Even like, especially like anything here was, the price direct jumped like $2,500 for like a typical change out, which is a heater and air conditioner. It used to be like $4,000, now it's like $6,500. So like it's jumped and just doing a change out because of the material cost, the metal, all those things. And then labor, it up. Yeah. Cool.